Particles are always in constant motion.
All matter is made up of tiny particles, such as atoms, molecules, and ions.
Particles move faster when temperature is higher. Thus, temperature affects the speed at which particles move. These particles are held together by electrostatic forces.
A pure substance, for example oxygen, has only one type of particle.
As observed, the particles move about in a fixed manner.
The particles are very tightly and closely packed together. Particles are very close.
The particles are attracted to one another very strongly. They are also very close to one another. There is no space between them to move freely.
The particles can only vibrate about in their fixed positions.
The particles possess vibrational energy. The forces of attraction here are not as strong as the ones in solids.
Thus, as you can see here, these particles can move over short distances.
The liquid particles can bump into the walls of the container and also into other particles, resulting in pressure.
These particles are not arranged in a fixed manner or pattern.
However, they are still packed closely together,
which does not allow particles to escape from the liquid.
These particles possess vibrational and translational energy.
The particles in gases possess vibrational, translational, and rotational energy.
Yes, and the particles in gases are very far apart from one another.
They are very weakly attracted.
The particles in gases are able to move freely in any direction.
Now we talk about the process of condensation.
Yes, it is a process whereby a gas becomes a liquid.
I agree. One practical example of that would be water vapor condensing to become water.
As mentioned previously, particles move rapidly and quickly in gases. Thus, when a gas slowly loses heat, the particles also lose energy.
With less energy, the particles will move even slower.
The forces of attraction become stronger,
and then the particles gradually start to become attracted to one another.
The particles have now returned to their liquid particle arrangement.
We will now talk about evaporation,
which is essentially the process of a liquid turning into a gas.
As you can see here, the particles are only sliding past each other and moving over short distances. So what happens when you add more heat to the liquid?
Oh, that's simple. The liquid gains temperature, and with the temperature increased, the particles will move faster.
The particles will move faster as more heat is applied to the liquid, till the particles have enough energy to overcome the forces of attraction.
Yup, with less force of attraction, the particles will break free of their bonds and they will start to move rapidly in a random manner.
By now, evaporation has taken place and the liquid has been converted to a gas. Melting is the process whereby a solid becomes a liquid.
Yes, and one example of that would be ice cubes melting to become water.
In solids, particles are only vibrating about in their fixed positions. Melting is a process whereby heat is added. With more heat, particles have more energy.
With more energy, the particles move about more rapidly and quickly.
Yes, and the particles will gradually move faster, and the forces of attraction becomes weaker to the extent that they break free of their bonds.
The particles will start to move and slide past one another. That is when the solid has reached the melting point.
That is when the solid has converted into a liquid.
Let us move on to freezing.
It is a process whereby a liquid becomes a solid.
Yes, just like how you put trays of water into the freezer for it to become ice cubes.
Particles of a solid can only move and slide past each other in liquids without much movement.
Yes, freezing is a process whereby heat is lost. Thus, with lesser heat, the liquid will be at a low temperature. The particles also lose energy and there is less particle movement.
With less energy movement, the forces of attraction are able to bring the particles closer to one another.
Eventually, the particles are brought close to one another in a fixed manner and pattern.
This is the point where all of the liquid have changed into a solid.
Last but not least, we have an additional process we would like to share with you.
This process is called sublimation, and is the process whereby a solid turns into a gas.
I agree. Dry ice is an example of a substance which undergoes sublimation to become carbon dioxide directly without entering the liquid state.
Hey Desmond, let me test you. So, what's the opposite of sublimation?
The opposite of sublimation will be known as deposition, otherwise known as desublimation.
That is when a gas becomes a solid.